There is absolutely no doubt that poker machines are a woeful form of gambling and cause major problems in Australian society. But somehow one can't help but feel that neither federal Tasmanian independent Andrew Wilkie, his great supporter and renowned anti-pokey campaigner Senator Xenophon, nor the frozen with fear Gillard government have not been very innovative in looking at ways to address the problems these machines cause. I agree. Many in the wider electorate feel poker machine reform in itself is not a bad thing, just that many disagree with the methodology. The mandatory pre-commitment proposal put forward by Andrew Wilkie is widely unpopular in New South Wales, Queensland and Victoria, and it has the capacity to obliterate many Labor members in those states. It also has the capacity to cost a lot of people their jobs, and neither Senator Xenophon or Mr Wilkie can offer some type of assurance to those whose jobs are threatened. If revenues in clubs and pubs fall dramatically, jobs will go. Full stop, end of story, irrespective of what Mr Wilkie and Senator Xenophon say. This is hardly the economic environment to threaten large numbers of jobs. I know plenty of poker machine gamblers who are impulsive, but hey, they can afford it. And to them the pre-commitment idea is a wank, an invasion of their privacy, and they do not themselves go into a club or a hotel or to the casino with a pre-commitment in their own minds. So why should they be forced to commit to one? Forget whether the proposal of Mr Wilkie's will get the much-needed support of Adam Bant, Rob Oakeshott and Tony Windsor in the federal parliament, not to mention Bob Catter as well. It is certainly not going to get Liberal Party support, who will generally always err on the side of psychopathy. As I said, no one underestimates the chaos poker machines can and have caused, and like all forms of gambling, to varying degrees will continue to do so in the future. It just could have been approached differently. Getting a great majority of the electorate's backup is not a way to do this, and there could be some other alternatives that are electorally palatable. Mr Wilkie, Reverend Tim Costello, who's been firmly in Mr Wilkie's corner on this issue, Senator Xenophon and others, have obviously not looked at subtle ways this could be done and effect change. One would not have expected the Gillard government to have done this, as they've been sadly lacking on forethought in many other areas, so it comes as no surprise they are copping an electoral shellacking over this issue. What is wrong with passing legislation, for example, that states that poker machines must be muted? Can you imagine a poker machine parlour without trains tooting, gunshots firing, Indian drums pounding, bells ringing and jingles blaring from machines, attracting more attention from other players than they would certainly pay to question time, or to a neighbour belting the daylights out of his wife? Just go into any club and watch and listen. Bells start going off when people get a payment the size of a caraway seed and a look up the road, and people on other machines crane their necks to the extent they almost need chiropractic assistance to return to their more normal stance, to see what big payout their fellow players are getting, when in actual fact it's usually generally very little. This is part of the go. It's part of the adrenaline rush and part of the mesmeric addiction people get to poker machines, which has often been referred to by Mr Wilkie himself and Reverend Costello. If the din was subdued, so too would be the feeling that a player is missing out, and is perhaps only a couple of pushes away, pardon me, from getting their machine to act up like a piano accordion on steroids. If poker machine parlours had piped, subdued music, muted machines, and other players could instead hear the angst, utter disgust and despair of their fellow players, the drift away from the machines could probably be very significant. Perhaps the rationale of players would also not be addled from the machines carrying on like half a haircut. And you are not interfering with people's rights to act as they wish, a big part of the resentment to Mr Wilkie's proposals. Why also make it illegal, why shouldn't you make it illegal, I should say, to have bonus cards that offer you a cabinet full of tacky prizes after you have spent 1,000 times their value worth on poker machines? Even the biggest duopoly in this country, Coles and Woolworths, were forced into selling cigarettes from one register only and not issuing petrol vouchers for tobacco purchases. So it's not rocket science that initial measures could be taken to allow people to play in silence and hear the players next to them and not be rewarded for having done their butt in the machine. I am sure their concentration would not be broken too often by many screams of exhilaration. Therefore, any such move to mute poker machines and outlaw poker machine bonus competitions and giveaways will hardly turn all-in club and pub land into schadenfreude's narcs. And the addicts, adrenaline junkies and tone deaf will most likely be the ones that are turned off quicker than the recreational player who is just having a bit of fun. Sure, I'm positive the clubs would hate this too, but the electorate would not mind. And funnily enough, you guys have to ultimately appease the electorate. And more particularly, so does the embattled ALP. You know, the party you guys are standing over to get this legislation through. Furthermore, it would allow pubs and clubs time to introduce more promotions and events that help them retain their clientele and the jobs that will almost certainly be lost under Mr. Wilkie's jackboot plan. As for Mr. Wilkie and Senator Xenophon writing to Channel 9 today over Ray Warren and Phil Gould's remarks at a recent football match about Mr. Wilkie's proposed draconian and somewhat Orwellian legislation, give me a break. You do not have to be confrontational and get a large percentage off the electorate offside to belligerently make a point. Most people agree there is a need for a curb on gambling and poker machines, but not in some schoolmarmish fashion that treats the electorate like they are a pack of dunces. This continual bleating of politicians about the media is just too prissy and far too disingenuous. It is just too cute for politicians who can be as phony as a Chanel bag bought at the Petaling Street night markets in Kuala Lumpur to start crying foul when they disagree with something someone in the media says. If you want to affect change, do it innovatively. Do it without getting a large number of people's backup. And maybe, just maybe, politicians may get elevated above used car salesmen and real estate salesmen, who they trailed behind in a Reader's Digest poll a few years back. Despite the attempts of politicians to stifle public comment and public debate, we the electorate still have the greatest say of all, the ballot box, and intimidation from politicians hasn't been able to change that yet.